All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Victory Over Self Radio, a podcast that dives into all things athletics. On this episode, we sit down with Kortlin White of Lewisville High School in Lewisville, Texas. He's currently the running back and S&C coach for the football team. He's also the founder of Black Coaches of Texas. Their motto is build, serve, mentor, and empower, and the goal is to highlight coaches across the state. Coach White played at University of Mary Hardin Baylor. He's worked all over Texas and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience within the Texas high school football community. Welcome on, Coach.
Appreciate you. Glad to be on.
Hey, man. Just glad you could take some time here on this Super Bowl Sunday. A little bit rainy outside today, and we can get into it a little bit. So I'll tell you what, man. Tell us, how did you get, and you've talked a little bit on other podcasts, but I think you're one of the few coaches I've heard that's got a really deep family tie in coaching. Mm-hmm. How'd you get into coaching? What made you get into football, and then kind of how it led into you being in the weight room.
Gotcha. So three. My dad is the oldest of four, and so he's the only boy. But all three of my aunts are coaches. Two have retired in the last 3 years, and then one of my aunts is still in coaching, but she's now just an athletic secretary. But growing up, born in Austin, lived in Pflugerville. Anytime I had a 3-day, 4-day weekend, man, I was going to Rockville. One of my aunts coached, and it was sitting at volleyball games, sitting at basketball, going to track meets. Like, I just kind of grew up around it from a young age, like 5 or 6 years old. Then being able to see the impacts that my aunt had at Rockdale, and then going to see my aunt who coached at Deer Park in Southeast Houston, and just seeing the impacts they've made on kids young playing, and seeing how much they get to stay involved in those kids' lives, and seeing them grow up to be young men and women. And so I think that's the greatest impact you can have in this profession is like you leave outside of the sports. Tell our kids all the time, so at some point the clock will hit zero, and we don't know when that's going to be. So having that opportunity to say, did I just teach you the game of a sport, or did I teach you the game of life in all phases? And so I kind of knew I wanted to get into that route. My dad actually played in the NFL, got drafted by the 49ers, so I'm working for the 49ers today. And then in the 80s draft, he was picked 206. Played in Minnesota. So football was kind of when I started to understand that, your aunts were big time athletes. They played in college. Your dad played in Minnesota, got drafted. You kind of understood that, sports is a big thing. And so I think I didn't touch a football till I was in 6th grade, because my mom was like, we ain't playing football. And then so I ran track and played basketball up until then. And then the first time I picked up football, I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
And so I excelled well in high school. Had opportunity, obviously, to go play at Mary Hardin Baylor, a very dominant program since it's been around. This is probably the first year they haven't won a conference title out of like 18, 19 years. So just all those things that school and that program, Coach Fredenberg instilled in me, and kind of took with that, and then knew that I want to be a coach. And so, you go from winning a lot of games in college to, getting your hands dirty when you start in the junior ranks. It kind of humbles you and lets you know that, there's a process to this, and that, you're fortunate enough to be where you're supposed to be. And it takes time, and I was reluctant to start at Sealy Junior High, home of Eric Dickerson. So a great tradition to start at. Was the first team to win it, 4 times, 4 state titles. So it's like, again, a lot of tradition. Community shuts down on Friday night over there. And so I was really fortunate to start there with my, actually, in this profession, it's about who you know. And so I remember talking to my old defensive back coach at the time, Coach Richards, and he was like, man, if I ever can hire you first time I want to. And those words became true about 3 years later. And one day I was sitting there, I'd taken like 5, 7, 10 interviews, you name it, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. And, everybody's like, we like you interview, just no experience. And then I'm sitting at Hutto, my Farley Middle School as a para. I feel like I graduated mid-December, and then I get a call from Coach Richards. He's like, hey, you think you can get off tomorrow for an interview? And I was like, all right. He was like, yeah, because I'm always sitting here in shorts and a gray shirt. He's like, oh, that's fine, don't worry. So I got introduced to this profession in a way that people were like, you interviewed in jeans and a gray shirt. Yes, I did, and that's how I got my first job.
That's awesome. Yeah, man, it's interesting hearing how different guys get started and the connections and the little things of it. Always takes one person, right? It takes your first chance, first open door. It's funny that I've got a good buddy. His name's Tucker Tapscott, and he's how I got into interning at Longwood at the school I was at. He was interning. I was a business major, not an extra science guy, and I had finished my first year, and he'd been interning with the strength department. And he's like, and I've been working out with him. He's like, hey, why don't you go see if they'll let you in, intern and whatever. I was like, sure. I didn't know anything about it. I go in there and talk to them, and they're like, yeah, just come in Monday and you can come help us. I said, okay. Show up Monday. After that first week, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like this is where yeah, man, this is where I need to be. My dad was a football coach growing up, and so I'd always been around coaching, and I always knew that I was going to get into coaching somehow. It's just a matter of what am I going to do? Is it going to be sports or whatever? And so I didn't even think about the weight room at all, to be honest with you. And then as I've kind of gone through it, I've learned that I really enjoy the year-round development piece and kind of being in the background. And don't get me wrong, I've coached football, I've coached wrestling, and I've coached lacrosse, and I like those. But the background and year-round development is ultimately kind of what I like in that consistency. Plus, I like being able to help the school from a macro level and not just, hey, this one, I'm helping with wrestling and we're getting that going, but now I got 20 other sports I'm trying to help. So that's really good. So what were some of the things from your aunts watching them coach over the years? Like what were some of the key takeaways or, being able to bounce things off of them and get ideas from them that you've learned or taken?
I think seeing them handle adversity, seeing them, we can get caught up as, former athletes of letting emotions get the best of us, and seeing them be able to call timeout, regroup, refocus, and go back and get back in a game or, finish the game strong, just those aspects you really you can't take for granted. Because, yes, we all want to win. Obviously, former athletes love the coach, want to give back to the game that they gave us. But just being able to handle yourself in moments where things can go south really fast, as we both know, depending on what sport you're playing. But seeing them handle adversity with so much grace, win or lose, and being still be able to be that same person after the game. And yeah, you get to celebrate, but I think adversity, they showed me how to handle adversity a lot.
That's a big reason why I love coaching wrestling, because there's never the unique part of wrestling is that, I'm not calling plays, the coaches, obviously you're teaching through the week and whatever, but ultimately the kids got to make the decision. And obviously they're out there by themselves, man, you're winning, losing. It's a really unique setup. And I think the beautiful part of that is, like you're saying, man, when the kids go through adversity and they lose, it's really emotional. Like when you wrestle, it's really emotional because it's so personal, because you're contact with a guy the whole time and you just lost by yourself. Like it's really emotional. And so such a great learning ground for the adversity piece and learning to win humbly and learning to lose humbly. And because you're going to lose in a heartbeat just as quick as you can win. And so that's a good point. I want to touch on a little bit, and just because you mentioned it, how you went through a bunch of interviews, you got, a bunch of interviews, and Lord knows how many applications I've ever sent out on different jobs. And when you first are getting in, like you said, the common thing is, you don't have experience. And I think that's always I'm going to call it a poor reason, in that, you can see great coaches early. Like when you talk to guys, man, I don't care how old they are, you can very easily tell good coaches, I think, just
No
from
doubt.
talking to them. They got the potential to be good. And
Mm-hmm.
you're not looking for, at least in my opinion, and I say this from both hiring guys and interviewing people as an AD. I'm looking for them as a person, and then the X's and O's, man, you can pick up on that pretty
Yeah.
quick. And it's just something I find over time of, I don't ever want to say, man, they don't have any experience. It's more, you're either not a good fit personality wise or something else. I don't ever
Right.
want to say experience. And I hate that that's a common thing, because I've got some good buddies in coaching that same thing. They don't have any, you don't quote unquote have any experience. It's like, well, dude, what are you going to do when that was the next kind of guy and you missed
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
They walked in your office and you missed him. But I don't know if you've had any guys in your time that you've talked to and you're kind of like, okay, this guy, I need to make sure I bring him along and, mentor him or whatever. I've got a couple guys that have interned and worked under me that I know if I ever get a chance to hire somebody or recommend them for a job tomorrow, I'm bringing them and I'm doing what I can.
Oh, no doubt. Like, I got, everybody says you got your guys, and you gotta be, and I think you have to be careful because, we can get to this profession where we want to have buddies, and sometimes things don't go the way it's planned. I think the guys that, that I would call up, I think that we've always had those hard conversations like, hey, at some point, if it does not work out the way we thought it is, it's okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's guys that lose friendships over a job because you know what,
It's a great point.
if I'm the head guy or the guy that recommended you and you're not doing well, like sometimes we gotta cut ties, and then it's not personal. It's always just business because we know if you wear your feelings on the sleeve, man, it could go south real fast. But like the experience part, like just hearing that so much in 2013, because it was really competitive in 2013, I would say, compared to now, because obviously we're in a shortage. But just you tell them, they tell you, you just need some experience. Well, how am I going to get experience if you won't let me get it? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think you hit the nail on the coffin with the personality. You can pick up X's and O's. Like a coach can teach you the ins and outs, but like, do you have personality? Do you blend well with the committee? Will you? I think sometimes you should almost give them like a student teaching um, day where they come in and you get to see if they can build rapport with kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? Get to have some hands on type thing, because like we can always you feel like you can hire somebody, but until you see them in action, you know what I'm saying? You hear those good people like, man, we about to hire a solid one, and then a couple months go by and it's like,
Yep.
like so it's like it's a push pull, but like just being able. I think experience is great. I think experience tells you what you've been through, but I think actually getting to see somebody in action in your culture, your element, I think can also help you. And I know you can't do that in interviews, but I think that would be a nice addition to job interviews. And I like some interviews I've done where you have to record yourself, which is
Mm-hmm.
cool, I think. But I think till you actually get to see that person, I mean, everybody's going to put great references on. Whoever put a bad reference, like
Yep.
if you do, I mean, come on now, you wouldn't put somebody that maybe you didn't see that, but you're always going to have solid references who's going to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to put all those great things, and I think just seeing them for a small bit, not asking for like 3 hours, maybe a 30-minute segment where, hey, you got a lesson with the kids. Boom, let's see you work. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think that can give you even better insight of what kind of person you could be employing.
It's funny you say that, because I was listening to this. It might have been Gary Vee. He was talking about how he just doesn't call references. He's like, what are they going to say? They're going to say that you're great,
Yeah.
and you're never going to put a bad reference on there. And that's a great point. And I know in the strength and conditioning world, there are some guys that will have, they've got hey, I have this team in here today, go coach them. You got 30 minutes and go do that. And that's a gnarly way to get the intro, but it's, at the end of the day, man, it's who you are, and then you're going to step in, you're going to coach at the end of the day, because I know, and again, I'm speaking strength here, of when you interview strength coaches, if you're not a strength coach and you haven't been in that world, you
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily know like what questions to ask and what you're looking for. If you're just an AD or a sport coach and you've never done the weight room, or you've seen somebody run a weight room, you don't necessarily know what questions to ask to kind of learn those different things and see how they flow. Same thing is going to happen for a sport coach.
Mm-hmm.
But how I coach with at Cleburne, I get some I'll have some groups of over 115, and how I coach with 115 kids in there versus how I coach with a group of 20
Yeah.
is not the same. And
No.
and
Can't be.
and and you can appreciate, there's I'm not the best to be around at 120 because I'm more stressed about logistics and like getting kids through versus, 20, 30 kids in there, man. I am a great time. I can coach them up. I can, you're building relationships, you're doing all that. So one downside of those big groups is it's hard to build relationships that way, kind of like you touched on, man. And that's the part I'm working on, but I'm starting to get smaller groups and I'm spreading them out, able to spread them out a little bit more. And that's my goal for next year. Again, just so those relationships can be built, like
Yeah,
you're saying.
for sure. Like it's just an S&C, just like you said, 15 to 20 is always going to be different. It just you can't you can't be the same. You can't be 10 and 2 with one group because 115 people. You're just trying to make sure no one gets hurt. No
Hmm.
one a dumbbell to the foot, a barbell to the foot, anything. If they walk out, no one got hurt. That is a win. That is like summer camp out of the day. You're just like, man, let me just make it.
That's right. So, Coach, tell me how, because I know you got your start in coaching football. Tell me kind of how you got to the addition of the weight room, with your football coaching, kind of what led to that.
Okay, so Sealy Junior High, they kind of do it where they find out who wants to be in athletics, who doesn't. So at Sealy, they have PE and pre-athletics at the same time, or at least one is there. So if kids didn't want to be in pre-athletics, they go straight to PE, which is great. But in pre-athletics, I got to be with sixth graders, and we got to learn weight room, just the basic fundamentals of PVC pipe, barbell, dumbbell, body weight, all those great things. And so by the time they got to seventh grade, we're not reteaching anything. They know the basic foundation. Now we're getting the more advanced, but they know the basic foundation. So that was fun because sixth graders don't know anything. They just went from top of the chain to the bottom of the food chain in junior high. And so love that, great experience. And then I get my first high school varsity opportunity at Waco Conley with Shane Anderson and K'Ron Johnson, who's K'Ron is the head coach at Waco University in Waco. And just kind of watched him maneuver. He ran the S&C while we were there, and just saw him with the energy and the details and how we got to move kids around and how much success from year one where we go, I think 2-8, 3-7 to second year we make the playoffs. We go 3-0 in our first three non-district games, and just the growth we made in that time. And then so I had the JV while I was there, and there'd be times where he had to go do something varsity, and he's like, "Hey, White, you've been watching me enough. Let's go." And so I kind of just modeled after him, found my groove, found things that I like, and kind of ran with it. And then 2 years there, then I go to Hillsboro and get to dive in it even more as a strength and conditioning. They had a guy my first year there, and then the second year he left. And Joey Moss, who's now coach against me at Marcus, is like, "Hey man, you want it?" I've probably had almost every title you can think of: recruiting coordinator, this special teams, it's S&C. So it's like there was nothing that I could not do, and really got to my first summer. So it'll be summer of 17, and I mean, I wanted to do this right. I still have it on my Google Drive. This color card, 6 or 7 lifts, got our conditioning, blah blah blah. And I mean, I grinded that whole summer. In Hillsborough, we knew we were gonna make the playoffs always, just because we had to beat like 2 teams, which I'm not gonna name those 2 schools, but we knew
Yeah.
we were gonna beat them. But we did some things in my second year there that hadn't been done. And we get off to a hot start. We beat Whitney, we beat West, teams that Hillsborough's never been around. You just start seeing the light bulb clicking, and the guys going through. I think S&C is premium to me. I think you set the tone for what you want your season and your kids to go through. You put them through the fire, then I but truly believe in the season is where those sacrifices pay off. And so we rattle off some wins, we get in the playoffs again, and just, kids that I still talk to this day, they're like, man, coach, man, we used to get upset when you used to make us, do a little bit extra. We used to get after us a little bit more, but we appreciate those times. And we did something, we qualified for 7-on-7 the first time in school history there. So like just those things made it just, like, okay, this S&C can really go somewhere. And then go to Nacogdoches and take a backseat my first year. I get hired late. And then my second year, we didn't make the playoffs first year, but the second year, Darren Allman, who was the head coach at the time, was like, hey, I know you got a background or you've done it before. How do you feel about taking it over? And again, that's when, COVID hit. So I think if my wife had recorded me, I think, all those workouts at home, they got a little tiring.
Yeah.
But it humbled me a lot. And again, made the playoffs, played a phenomenal game against Texas High that year on Thanksgiving break. Gave ourselves every chance to win that game, but we got in the playoffs that year. Again, I feel like what we did in strength and conditioning, it led us to that moment, especially with COVID. We were probably 2 days away from playing our first game, and a kid got COVID, and we were shut down for 2 weeks. So we had to scale that back, and then our head coach calls Fort Worth Boswell and was like, hey, we're going to play in 2 days. So we have 1 day of practice. We drive 4 hours from East Texas and win by 2. We were gassed. The last 2 minutes and 47 seconds in the game, somebody was cramping. We held on for dear life. But again, those things, when you like look back at it, you're like, man, how much did you have to develop yourself, and how much things did you have to go and really seek out during those moments, especially in COVID, because you had the white bars, you had to, had to have a station in between, open station, like so many things that you don't even think about as an S&C coach. And so did that, and then, got an opportunity from a good friend, Darren Eason, over at Highland Park. Just put out in the group chat, like, hey, guys, there's a strength condition job. If you're interested, let me know. And so I just messaged him, quite separately to say, hey, like, hear more about it. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna give your number to Stu Johnson, who's our defensive coordinator right now. And I told my wife, hey, I'm gonna take this interview. Not gonna see much. We weren't looking to move yet, but we were just seeing what it is. So I talked to Stu. 10 minutes later, he's like, hey, give Coach Odo a call. And then, another conversation leads to another conversation. Then I look up, I'm driving to Lewisville, Texas, and talk about walking into a situation that really had me look at the opportunity as, man, this is a 6A, a really well-known tradition. Back in the 90s, people knew who the Fighting Farmers are. Opportunity to work with a lot of Division I talent. And then there was a guy on staff that I knew, Coach Underwood, he's an assistant strength coach at Mississippi State now. I knew him from events, and also I was like, man, what a perfect opportunity. And I knew probably after the first interview walking in, I was like, it's a done deal. Like if they offer it, and Coach Odell calls me like later that night or texts me, he's like, hey, we don't need to see anything else. If you want it, it's yours. And so we took this job, and man, haven't looked back, and now it's 3 years later, and I'm just like, to see the guys have, in the 21 class, the 22 class, and now this 23 class season that we just had, and now another class. It's just like time flies, and the memories of our first 3 years, we've gone 31-7. We've done some great things across the board. I think what's even a unique or cool thing is that when our guys go off to college, and I ask them, like, hey, how's the waiver program over there? And they're like, gosh, man, one step that you broke them for. It's like, and so like to hear that our guys are prepared, and I'm not looking to send them off and be the most advanced athlete, but to the basic foundations of not being in that development group is what you hear.
Mm-hmm.
to being like, coach, I'm lifting with the twos. The twos are that lets me know that what we've accomplished and what we've done so far is working, but also is that we have to keep evolving. You know, as a strength coach, like one team versus the next team doesn't you can't treat them the same because there's new guys, there's new roles, there's new happenings all the time. So that's kind of how I fell into the thing is that this made me learn from Kayron Johnson over there, and then being able to go to college, see college programs work out. I love going to TCU to see Koskazadi. I think that guy is far ahead of the game. And if you hadn't been around to see them work out, I promise you will be drinking water out of a hose just to hear things they do throughout the year. And that's kind of another foundation. And then you just got mentors, Elton Cochran down in San Antonio, Missy Mitchell, people that just randomly will, they're not too big to answer questions, and then you form these relationships, and then next you have your S&C community, and you're bouncing ideas off because everybody has different philosophies, but I think the one main goal everybody has is to make better athletes and to give them tools outside of when they become a former athlete. So it's kind of the story where I'm at now.
That's awesome. Yeah, the cool part about the strength stuff, man, with the coaches is everybody's open. There's really not a secret out there, and
No.
and it's all about how you implement it and you run it and all that stuff. And I've got a nice list of coaches now that I'm in Fort Worth of that I'm within driving distance of, man, I got to go see these cats, and I
No
got to
doubt.
find the time and to go get them. So since you're again, Louisville, super successful, you've been successful since you've been there, and you've been in a variety of programs. You touched on it a little bit. How what do you think the differences are of developing the mental side of it within the weight room setting between your, I'm going to say, historically not successful programs or struggling programs to historically good? They've got highs and lows, because it's almost two different approaches of how you've got to go about it, I think, a little bit. And
Yeah.
the same thing for the physical side of, now that you're at Louisville, you've been there for 4 years or you're heading into your fourth, physically kind of how that development has shifted over the years. But again, that mental side of historically really good versus struggling up and down, and then that physical
Mhm.
development that you got there at Louisville now.
I think, I think you got to bet on yourself. I think kids, once you build the rapport, I think you have to have rapport. It doesn't matter how great, how knowledgeable you are. If those kids don't really care, or you haven't talked to those kids, everything else is going to be irrelevant. And I think when you establish that, kids will start buying in. I think to the mental approach for a school historically who hasn't been good, I always tell them, and I use it even still now, why not this guy? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What What would you do if you knew that you were going to give yourself a competitive chance every Friday night by showing up and doing the little details of the habits? And we talk about habits. We really started talking about habits when I was at Lewisville about habits are a double-edged sword. What are you willing to die on? You're going to die on some bad, but let's start down on some good. And so like places like Hillsboro and Nacogdoches, it was more the mentality of let's come to work. And then when we get to the season, it's going to fall the way the story's already written. The story was written this summer, this off season. That's where the story's written. You give yourself every chance to go out on a Friday night and compete for a win, right? And even if you come up short, is it a failure? There is always good in a loss. What was the good and what's the bad? And I think you approach teams who don't historically have the mentality, or they know that we've been getting our teeth kicked in, is that what, I'm gonna give you the set of resources and tools. And when I was 27, 28, and I still sometimes get in the weight room with our kids. I think you got to show the kids that it's possible. And when they see you doing a lift or see you demonstrating, they're like, okay, coach is just he's not going to talk. He's going to speak with his actions as well. And so I think you do that more so at those programs. So when that light bulb clicks, now the mentality's changed. You start hearing coaches talk about, you see coaches after games or, in off season when you got clinics, and like, man, coach, y'all were different back in the day. After 2-3 scores, y'all be done. Well, we saw y'all fight. We saw y'all stay, resilience, stay after it, and seeing those things. And I think you have to have mental talks, and we have mental talks in Lewisville. I think if you don't take, I don't want to say you got to take a day. If you're taking 15 to 30 minutes of talking about something mentally, I think it always shows. And I using this example of in my second season in the summer of 22, we talked about emotional pillars of flexibility, responsiveness, strength, and resiliency. And we broke it down, PowerPoint, boom, 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 boom. And that team, we went to the regional tournament and lost to Prosper. That team hit every pillar at some point. We learned emotional flexibility when we're playing Leeds, and it was that terrible weather Friday where everybody around the area had to either move their game to Saturday or played later, and we're sitting there 2 minutes before kickoff and the line strikes, and guys are like, "Coach, whenever they let us play, let's go," and we go. That's when we solidify the district championship and go win 38-6 in the rain. Our guys are just going bonkers, and then we learn how to have emotional resiliency when we're playing Marcus, and we have lost the year before with a lot of good Division I talent, and we find a way down the whole game. We've lost the turnover battle, we've lost every battle you can think of, but our effort battle kept us in the game, and we win by 3, kick a field to win the ball game. And we did it again. We did it previously against Plano West. We had to win a kick a field goal by 1. So I think having those mental talks where we had these talks at some point, fellas, it's going to happen in the game. And just seeing those things get checked off, and guys talk about, man, we talked about this this summer. We talked about the emotional side of that things aren't going to go the same way. How are we going to respond to things? We're going to have emotional strength. We're going to pick a teammate up if a bad thing happens. And I think, and that's why I'll forever, if I'm still in Lewisville, wherever I go, I'm always going to take those pillars, because I think having mental talks, even when you're at the pinnacle point of good traditional teams, everybody needs to talk about it, because this game is, as you know, you look on social media, these kids are always about looking for the flashiness. But, I think kids seeing that mental aspect and then checking themselves, hey guys, get a pen down. What are some things you got to get better at? Me telling you that you need to get better at this aspect in the mental side. What do you think? Do you agree with that? And then once they put it on paper, they see it, they're visual learners. Those things, when the light bulb clicks, it's like, man. And then you get on a roll that season, and you just look back and you look at how many guys are playing. We had Quay Davis become a freshman All-American this year at Jackson State, and seeing him become a leader his senior year in that season, and seeing him just elevate. And you knew when he left off, like, Quay, you got all the tools. So I think it's a great lesson that I'll always take with me in the aspect of we're gonna have mental talks, and it may be a video from Inky Johnson, E18, or an old ball coach that that we really listen to. I like listening to Pete Carroll. I like listening to Shanahan. I like listening to all. I think finding things that are pivotal to your team is going to be huge in the mental aspect. And then when you talk about the physical aspect, I think at one point when I was early in the game, I think I used to say, like, man, we just got to get strong. We got to get strong. We got to just move weight. And then, as you evolve and adapt, and you're like, yeah, the strength's going to come, but, this is where my, power clean explosiveness, insight came from. It's like, would I rather have a guy who can power clean 225 or a 500-pound squatter who can't really move? And it kind of just put things in perspective for me of saying, like, it's great, but if that bar's not moving, then we're kind of not going to defeat the purpose of what we need to do on Friday nights. And as this game has changed for us, like, you're trying to, your offense is trying to outlast the defense to play fast and quick. You got defenses who got edge rushers going, running, 4-5 now. It's just like, people are, the new term is like, you got to train your bigs like your skills. Excuse me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the physicality part for me is more of a power, it's power, speed, but and then the strength aspect is going to come. But just putting guys in scenarios where, hey guys, don't chase the number. And my guys will tell you that all the time. Do not chase a number, because if you start chasing a number, you're gonna miss the point. You're gonna break form, or you're gonna miss out on an opportunity where that if you just focus on that quality of that rep, then the weight number will go up. And we're just trying to build. We're not trying to get to, if I'm a 275 power clean, I'm not trying to get 315 tomorrow. Build towards that. Keep that same form, keep that same bar speed moving when I get there. So that's kind of where I took my path in the mental and physical aspect.
Yeah, it's fun right now, and our kids they're going pretty good because I just got down there in July, and so you start that first month and you're teaching so much, man, and you're demonstrating. You were talking about demoing lifts earlier, man. That first month I got to Cleburne, my hips were so wrecked from demoing jumps and sprint, all that stuff, 4 groups a day, whatever it was, and just terrible. And so now every once in a while when I do the demo things, the other day we were doing box jumps, 2 foot on the ground, but 1 foot land on the box. And I just hopped up and did it, and the guys were like, "Oh," I was like, "Yeah, come on." And so I'm good. I'm good on the once, maybe not again, but I got it on the one.
Yeah.
But but like you're saying, man, the strength comes. Don't chase that number. That's something our guys are slowly getting. It's when it's the days that I let you go, man, we're going. Like there is no there's days that we're gonna chase it and we're gonna go for it, but man, most of the days we're not. And
correct.
The big thing that I try to explain to them is the developing versus expressing. I'm developing your strength, you're developing the power, you're developing the speed, and then hey, we're going to express it today, or whatever this may be. And it's been a little tough with, say, football, for example, because we started in July and then you're right into end season, and so you're trying to kind of balance the teaching and getting numbers and doing all that kind of stuff. And so now that we're, I guess, 6-7 weeks into off season, we're finishing up a couple of tempo phases and whatnot, and then starting after next week we'll go rep maxes, and we haven't done that in a while. And it's like, guys, you gotta understand now, after spring break, dude, y'all are gonna have really the first normal cycle that I would like to do now that I've got some good numbers and whatnot on you. And so don't worry, like the weight's coming, we're gonna go. Right now we're just establishing, and the kids have been good, man, and we sprint twice a week now. We got lasers and all that kind of stuff. And the lasers are new for the kids. They never had the lasers before, and they never done all that. And so, kind of like you said, man, when the kids can see, okay, this bar is moving fast, I'm still getting strong, and now I'm running fast, man, it gives everybody something to be good at and highlight and get both sides of the coin for the development, especially when you get those bigs moving, dude, and they're starting to do those athletic things. And, we're getting them there, but it's definitely taking some time. So how do you, and you touched on it a little bit, since you're also coaching football and obviously you're doing the weight room as well, how do you blend the coaching you're doing in the weight room with your sport coaching or with the guys on the field, and whether that's the technical side and the weekly development and loading and all that kind of stuff, or hey, you're tying in this movement to what we're learning as running backs, receivers, whatever it may be, but how do you blend the two since you are coaching the sport?
I think my eyes are like one of my biggest strengths. I'm always looking at how kids walk. I'm looking at how kids move. And sometimes if I'm able to like look and watch the defensive units go, like, I always like looking like, "Ooh, that was a good movement." Why they take him an extra step? Like, why couldn't he drop his hip just a little bit more to get out of his brain? So I think having that approach from the weight side of looking at, I'm looking at that. Yeah, I know there's a play call. I know there's a drill that's about to be done, but I'm watching. Are they moving fluid? Are they popping up? Are they trying to take an extra step? And so I'm always trying to think what kind of movements are we making on the field and where are our deficiencies. And so a thing that we're about to really get into is our unilateral. I think using our single leg, single arm stuff, you can't get enough of, because we walk on 2 feet, but when the game's going, when we talk about these phenomenal athletes, like look what spectacular plays are being made. I bet you they're jumping, they're catching that thing one hand or catching that thing off of 1 foot, like those things. And it's and there's a rules exception, we know that, but like putting our kids in those aspects of, you know what, I can tell that, you're on your left leg, you're great, but your right leg, you got some deficiencies. So let's work on keeping our strength on our left, but let's also build our right up to our left, and let's not overcompensate, you know. And so I think blending that into coaching, it really helps me understand, like, this guy is a great accelerator, but he doesn't have top end speed. All right, so now how can we make that acceleration at top end speed become even better? Okay, this is where we got to make a plan for you, or this is where we got to institute here. And so I think that's a thing that, yeah, you have some coaches who just seen a lot of good and bad athletes come through, but I think as an SEC coach, your eyes and what you look at are different than the average Joe. And sometimes, you have coaches say, I just don't know why we can't do this. Our coach will just look at this right here, and they're like, how did you know that? I'm like, it's just something you just look and see, and you've seen it, you've seen repetitions, you've seen it before. You're like, oh, we got to work on this aspect. So I think blending what you're seeing in the weight room to what you're seeing and just watching athletes walk normal and go through drills, I think you can pinpoint maybe, we live 2 times a week in the season, and sometimes I'm still analyzing, hey man, right here, I know we're doing barbell bench, but I'm gonna put you on dumbbell bench right here. Okay. Quarterbacks, especially. So like things like that, they're just things you take for granted are really good tools to have.
What are some of the unilateral things you're doing? Because we just introed probably 3 weeks ago, split squats, just straight split squats with a safety bar. And that's been a humbling experience for our guys.
And it's humble anybody.
Yeah, and I think and especially with the safety bars, and I think it's interesting, at least in my experience, when you first intro those unilateral movements, whether it's a lunge or whether it's a split squat, straight up single leg squat, whatever it is. It's interesting how quick the guys pick up on it. Like when they first do it, that split squat, for example, the guys are just terrible. They're awful. And a lot of it has to do with stability. Yeah, the stability piece at the end of the day. But it's amazing how quickly they get better at it and how much better they feel at it. And I keep telling the guys, because eventually we'll do some hand supported stuff in that split position. Like you guys are going to be doing more weight on that than you are on any back squat or whatever we do. Like that's going to be your strongest movement. And they're like, no, it's not. So, okay, just wait. You're going, I've seen a thing or two. And
this game long enough.
Yeah, So what are some of those unilateral things, whether it's upper, lower, whatever it may be that you're using?
Right now, we just got done doing Bulgarian squats. So yeah, again, we kind of teach you like, hey, I want this to be more quiet. So get closer. I want to see if you can drop straight down, and then if I want them to walk out, I want to work more on the backside, then I will. Then obviously, I always find out if I see them doing a great thing, hey, I have to jump right here. I want to see you be athletic. We've also instituted when I was first year, we had some really freakish athletes over here. We had med balls where they're jumping up angles because again, they're making cuts. I'm thinking like, hey, preventing injury. We can't just keep going vertical up and down. We got to make angles. So we're talking about, can we jump at 45 here and there? How quick can your foot get off the ground? We're really going down into split squat. We're going to time the max without having a max because I want to see our guys really get down, and I think that's going to really help some of our DBs, our skill guys, move a little bit better, and just being able to focus on coming back to that same point. So we alternate our split squat, but when we first teach it, we're just already get in it. So now we're like, hey, we're gonna get back to the middle, back down, right? Alternating back to the left, and so just getting them in different movements. I think putting them in uncomfortable situations where, hey, you got to focus on 135, let's just say. Now you got to, can I get without rocking? Can I get back with a great core and get back to this middle part and then go back? And we're not going to go over like 2 or 3 reps. But I want to see them put on some weight, and I want to see, can we really get down and keep moving the weight that I think we can. So that's kind of where we've done some things. And when you talk upper body, man, I love a good single arm press. I like doing it seated. I like doing it in a 3/4 or a quarter squat, being explosive. Again, just doing some things. We got some jammers added to our our new weight room setup. Again, you can't get enough of one hand. Again, I talk to defensive coaches. They want to explode triple extension. Okay, let's do that. Well, the single arm, man. You got your linebacker trying to fit up against a big time offensive lineman. Again, I think one thing that's really we're doing all that. And you talk to your athletic trainers and say professor at TCU in athletic training side. Hearing Coach Melson at Lewisville say, "Man, we really haven't had torn labrums, ACLs. You have predicts and that's going to happen, but just when we get done with the season and we're not as banged up as they used to be, and that's where I want to win. Is that I want you to be able to walk. I want you to be able not to have multiple surgeries. That stuff, arthritis is real, and so again, everything we're doing is I'm always in prevention injury care.
Yeah, that was something at my last school that after the football season, one of the coaches said, "Man, we didn't really have any weight room injuries. We didn't have these pecs and low backs and all this stuff." Like, yeah, you can still train and do it right and not get them jacked up.
Yeah.
The honestly, the biggest thing I think to teach, especially when the kids haven't had a coach before, a strength coach before, is because you get the guys that go train on their own and they do their own stuff, which is great, cool. Go, go do it. Just do something that we're not doing. And I had a kid in my last spot who would go. He would train during the school day, but then he would go after school or in the morning. And for I don't know, probably the first 3-4 weeks of the season, his sprints were down and his jumps were down. Like they kept just trending downwards, significantly more than what it should be. And so finally, he had his worst jump and worst sprint of the year in week 4 or something. I'm like, hey, what are you doing lifting wise? It's like, well, man, my legs are killing me because I did 10 rep squats or maxed on squats or whatever it was on Thursdays. So every Thursday he was going to the gym and he was doing high reps, like a bodybuilding type squat day on Thursday nights or Thursday mornings. Okay. And I said, man, because I was like, dude, you look really slow on Friday. And then, come to find out my man is doing bodybuilding squats or whatever on Thursday. I'm like, hey, dude, go on Saturday or Sunday or Monday, any other day other than Thursday. I was like, go Sunday or Monday. And then we'll talk about it. And, 2-3 weeks later, he hits PRs and he's doing great. Yeah. It's like, it's little things like that they've got to learn over time.
No doubt.
So Coach White, so you've been at a bunch of programs across the state. You played at UMHB. What are some of the common things you've seen in these programs that you think have made them successful? It can be on field, it can be off field, it can be the mental side, physical, whatever you think. What have been those common things from coaches and players that you've seen in those programs?
I would say for sure UMHB, man. What the code of the crew means. A lot of people love to hear it when they're on the recruiting trip, but until you get into the season and understand that that boot camp's at 5:30, that weightlifting, the standard is the standard. I think we used to be out there in the cold, like it could be 36 degrees. We're not backing down. We're out there getting it going. You got to have a chant going. I think being enthusiasm has to be a real thing. And, you hear people talk about, show me something. But I think when kids are fake, they're just trying to get through. It's not gonna translate. When you're enthusiastic about, hey, I'm going to war with this guy to my left, from right in front, and you got upperclassmen picking you up. I mean, you have to go watch a off-season program, and you may be and a lot of guys come in, and a lot of guys don't make it out of boot camp. And when you have to, and it's usually never that first day is great energy, but day 2, day 3, day 4, when you're in it, and then you got to come back and do it again. I mean, the common thing from UMHB is like, we want to test you and put you in the most rigorous, the most mentally challenged things. And can you come back and do it again? And can you finish a drill and cheer on your next teammate? You know what I'm saying? Like being able to think fast and quick, not worried about I have some pain because I'm tired, whatever the case may be. But can I do extra? Can I do more? Can I build habits? And I think what they do. There's a reason why they've won the conference that many years and 3 national championships. Like it's not. Yeah, they recruit great players, but when talent doesn't work hard, what I'm saying, that's when you get beat, and they've definitely shown that. And then at places like Lewisville and Sealy and Waco Conley, the common thing is always what I've seen from coaches is that the greatest attribute you can have as a coach is instilling trust in your unit. And when your unit is willing to go to war with you, your unit knows you got their back, and you can have tough conversations. And I can't express that enough. When you have tough conversations as coaches with each other, tough conversations with your own units, and you don't leave any doubt, you're concise and clear to the point. I think that's why programs can be successful, because you had that tough conversation in the off season or in the summertime before leading up to the season. And just and I'm not saying you have to be rude, but these are the things that the kid needs to do, and these are the things why a certain set person is started. I think being defined in what you say and how you interact with coaches and with players, I think that's been a common thing I've noticed.
Yeah, being consistent. Those conversations, like you're saying, you're having the tough conversations, and through your actions and through your words, it's the kids see through it. When we talk about that all the time, and it's interesting. When you watch kids kind of go to different coaches, because in Texas, so I've learned there's so many daggone football coaches on staff that it's very interesting. When you watch the kids go talk to different coaches, how their demeanor changes or their language changes, and that, that's a combination of respect and also how the coach talks to them. And it's just like you're saying, you got to have those real conversations, and eventually you get the guys that come see you. They'll come talk to you and just kind of hang out or whatever, and kind of pick their brains a little bit, and you get to check on them. But go ahead, Coach.
I tell coaches all the time, just see how kids interact with each other. You can find you could find out everything you need to know about a team without even having to ask questions. Sometimes watch how they interact. Go stand like diagonal to them, distance from them, but go stand and just watch how they interact with each other. You can tell those are good friends. Oh, he just really likes to mess with him. You know what I'm saying? I'm a people watcher, just because I like to see, I can tell you why problems happen, because again, use your eyes. You don't say anything, just use your eyes and monitor the room. And as me, I'm always, we have 24 racks, so I'm always moving around. I'm walking constantly, coaching. I'm a big cute, get to the point. This kid does not need a dissertation today, because if you give a kid a dissertation, we always know these kids it goes in through the ear, out through the other, and then you miss the point. 3 to 5 words. I learned that from Shane Anderson. Have your message. Do not sit around and wait. And that's a big thing we're preaching right now because is that we need to get out and get reps, but we also need to have fun, and it has to be quality work. And that only looks like if you're quick to the point, because we all sat in lectures in college. How much did we really learn from a professor who talked for 45 minutes? Not much. Mm-hmm. So being interactive with kids, and again, build like you said, when kids come to you about a situation or how they act towards you versus others, kids realize what coaches are genuinely true and what coaches are just like, coach, that it just is what it is. You just you have to just know it. They just attract to who they like, and that's a testament to how a coach is. You got the personality. It goes back to our people. You have the personality. I can teach you everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've got it's interesting too when like you're saying, man, when you're looking at teams, you're looking at groups. Something I love looking at on each team that we have and all of our athletes, since I see everybody, is who I think the natural leaders are. Naturally within each grade, within your freshman to 12th, because every group has leaders. It's not, just because you're a senior and all that kind of stuff. And because some guys just don't want to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's zero wrong with that. But it's very easy, I think, to see your natural guys that are the leaders, and you kind of start nudging them and encouraging them a little bit. Hey, man, just so you've got more influence than you think you do. And be careful about what you're saying or what you're doing, because guys are watching.
Sure.
and how you carry yourself. And if you want to set the standard that we're trying to establish, then you've got to be the first one. And it's going to take time, and it takes a couple years to establish that. So, okay, I like that. So we had texted a little bit about this with those good programs, man. They all typically have a pretty good brand, and creating that brand. So, what do you think that looks like? And just honestly, from watching you on social media and what you post and the different things that you do, man, I think the brand that you guys have and you're creating at Lewisville is solid, and you got a consistent message and whatnot. So, one, how important do you think that is? And two, what do you think are the really good steps to determine this is our brand that we're going to be, and here's how we're going to establish it?
Yeah. So when I got there, it was Louisville, but then, it broke down to the loop. And then that's, when you walk to clinics or, that's just how people associate with you. They're from the loop. And I think having a brand, it shows that, it's not about coaches, because you can have these old ball coaches who I don't like none of that stuff. I don't want it, da da da. But it's about the kids. The kids are the ones making the plays on Friday nights. The kids are the ones who are in Dallas Morning News. Give them a brand, and once they make the brand, if it's falling under your core values, your standards, your culture, why embrace it? And so I think what we've done at the Lou, in the years I've been here, I think is truly been remarkable because, I mean, from hats to the jerseys to you name it, we've branded everything even in the school building. It's become an infectious culture in a great way that when you see kids walk in the hallways and something to Lou, or you see our student section, who's rocking after a win on Friday night. When you have a brand and it invades your school, you can be great. That's what kids want. That's what help. I truly believe athletics helps education, and that's how kids show up. Because you know what, when athletics is thriving, the school's going to thrive as well. Your best kids should be your student athletes, and they who they are, and it's being represented well, and just being able to. I mean, we go from we talk about the Lou. What falls under the Lou? Every unit has a theme. So we've got receivers are the bad guys. We got RBU. We got D block. We got Goonville in the secondary. And so these things again, they fall under the loop. And then we get into the weight room side. We call it, we lift with the one on the eye. Again, those things are something that, when guys are having big time lifts and, you hear the right rack and then they're like, we live like, in the hashtag. Again, it's our brand, and it's nothing fake. It's all about, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to come up with our own style that no one can say, oh, well, they got it from here, they got it from there. No, we sat down, we talked to our kids, we got the feedback. This is what we wanted to look like, but we've always known that it's not about what we say, it's about the actions that we do. And I think that's why when people see, when you look up and you see what we post, that's our brand. That's what we're going to be. And I think even if long gone, the memories that we've made, that's what's always going to remember by. That's something that for years in, decades, we want people to say one day, like, oh yeah, I've been at the Lou. I know how they get down. So that's just I think brand is important. I think that's why I started my own, the Whiteboard performance. Again, another brand that's something that I'm starting to dive into more. I think it's an identity, a part of your identity as a whole, but who are you as a true person is also going to reflect that brand. So,
Yeah, man. In the like you said, the brand and stuff, it's critical because it gives something for everybody to care about and to attract to, whatever it is. And I think people would be amazed at how much influence that has, regardless if your program is highly successful or not.
Mhm.
And really, it's just going to keep bringing it up, honestly. And with as much as you see of the different your different graphics and your different videos and the pictures of kids. You know, you get a good picture of a kid playing a sport, dude, he's going to hang on to that picture forever, and he's going to wait for that moment to post it and
Mm.
whatever it may be.
Yep.
And when you give them something like that to be proud of, man, it goes a long ways. It goes a long ways in being consistent. And like you're saying, and I'm assuming across the board with all your sports, it could be as simple as making sure all your sports are using the same logo. Like you don't have 50 different logos. The consistency in creating that is massive. Gets out in the community and all that kind of stuff. And I know there's some sports, you know, you want to have your own little logo or whatever. You still need to have the core, and then you can kind of go from there. But man, I like that. So last question here, coach, just to be respectful of your time here. And I didn't prep you with this one. It just kind of came up because we were talking about it beforehand. You got three girls, correct?
Yes, sir.
I've got a 15-month-old, and now that you're a girl dad and you coach a lot of boys all day, how's that changed you? You know, and you've got more experience than I do. I know in my brief amount of time, it's made a pretty big impact in my because my patience with my daughter versus young men is not the same. I've got a lot more patience with them compared to the boys. But anyway, how's that changed you and made you a better coach?
I think as a better coach is that it's opened. You hear these stories of how I think neglect's a strong word, but I'm gonna use it. How neglected those programs have been, and you don't know that when you're don't have those. But then when you have those girls and you start getting involved in soccer, you start getting involved in events, you start looking at it like I need to be. I want to advocate for my daughters when they get to middle school and high school. I've been on the boys' side and see it, and you want to give your kids the most every opportunity to be successful, every resource to be just as qualified as a young man. And I think being a girl dad has opened my eyes to say, you know what, been everyone wants to be something that happens great or doesn't, it doesn't. But I want everything I've learned as a coach to be able to, if I'm not coaching my kids, be able to step back and have had that mental talk. I've had, they say the best opportunity to coach your own kid, teaching your own kid. So when if they're getting coached by somebody else, you get to see is what you're doing with your kid reflecting. Are they being respectful? Are they being attentive? Are they doing the little things right? Because you're their reflection of you. And I think being a girl dad has been the most greatest humbling experience ever. I'm outnumbered in the household, but at the same time, when that door opens and I come home, I got three of them running at me, bracing for impact. But it's the best job in the world. It's the best talent in the world. I can't wait to see them to continue to grow. We're in soccer right now, and it gets hard for me sometimes not just to be a parent because the coach comes out at me sometimes, and you just want to say something like, you're like, let it play. You're just like, you're but there's no better feeling in the world being a girl. And I think the experiences that you have as a coach will help you when you get into more athletic or more whatever your kids may get into down the road, be effective.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point there at the beginning. Anytime I take over a new job, I always tell the coaches I think the most important teams in our athletic department are the girls teams from a total department success, because typically if your girls programs are dialed in, your boys programs just get dialed in.
Because what boys program wants to be outshined by the girls program?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
They just naturally get dialed in, and it's getting better. But you've got plenty of programs out there that don't train the girls in the weight room. It's only the guys. The girls aren't getting the same amount of time. And if the girls will train a little bit and they'll be consistent, those are the biggest returns on investment than anybody else, in my opinion. And they just got to see a little bit of success. It takes them a little bit to get on board, but man, once they see that, it's game over.
No,
and I will stand by that for forever. And that those need to be the programs. If your department as a whole is struggling, man, those are the programs you got to pour into, because not everybody is, and unfortunately.
I had a S&C overview this summer, and because our head coach was like, "Hey, let's see if we can start bleeding over to other programs. And, year 3 started, we had people fighting to get in the weight room. That's great. I think, and we've seen some programs take off this year. Our boys program has won 26, 27 games. It hasn't been done in a long time. Their strength guy, he's one of my best friends, but he got with me and we talked. He'll ask questions, and he's taking Reddit's on, and they truly turned the year 3. They've turned that thing around. Everybody's getting away from the girls' side is getting on track. We're creating our vertical alignment with our junior highs and go. So again, it takes some time, and I think that's what you hear a lot of people have some great quotes about instant gratification. People want to win now, but no one wants to do the process. No one wants to go through the fire or the grind first to reap the benefits later. And I think people, once you realize that once you get established and you can be consistent, that's why you see programs that are successful year in and year out, because it's what are they receiving from the middle school to the high school. And I think that gap is so, people don't realize how far of a gap it is.
It's so funny you say that because in our district, obviously you got pre-athletics, so you got 6 through 12, but I'm physically helping with 7th and 8th grade, and we do the programming for that. And that's been a big talking point of mine lately is, we as a district have to develop our own kids. Like, we can't expect the other programs, if they go do other stuff, those coaches to do it. And really, a lot of our kids, we got some kids that do that some don't, but ultimately we're the ones that have to develop it. And so they're starting to stride now, and I'm going to be super excited for those 8th graders to come in this summer and start that training with the high school, because they already know what to do. They know what everything is, man. I don't have to teach them for 6 months. I taught them for 6 months when I first got here, and we're learning. And now we're going to start, we're slowly adding weight. I'm giving them weight limits and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, being able to transition, like you're saying, and I keep telling our coaches, you're not going to notice a big difference after the first year with kids. I mean, yes, there's going to be an improvement. You're going to notice. Second year, you're going to see a little more. Third year, if you just go all in, third year is when I think you really start to see it. Yep. And then your fourth now, it's everybody's been through it, and it's brand new and everybody's on board. So it takes time to change. Well, Coach, I'll get you out here on this, man. Tell everybody where they can kind of find you. Obviously you're on X and you've got the Whiteboard Performance, but tell them where they can find you and how they can get in contact with you.
So you got the Coach K White, obviously. If anytime we post something and people reach out, I'm not one of those, like you said, there's no secret. Like, if you want to ask me something, or if you want to come by and visit with us, more than glad to sit down. I'm actually speaking next weekend at the I-20 clinic on our off-season program. And so again, it's at 3:00 next Saturday. So if this reaches anybody who's going to it, if you want to sit down and talk even more, I'm willing to share stuff. I'm always willing to talk, and maybe you're doing something that's better than that I need to look at. I'm always wanting to learn more. I'm always evolving, want to learn new stuff. But yeah, easiest way to get in touch with me is Coach K White on X, which is so weird saying X instead of Twitter.
I say Twitter anyway.
And then LinkedIn, Kortlin White is easy as well. That's another way to get a hold of me. But yeah.
Cool, man. Well, hey, that was a great talk. I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.